Hello, and welcome to this episode of my podcast. I'm Anneke Lucas, and today I am in Windeck in Germany. I traveled here to interview a survivor that I've known for 7 years, and we have spoken quite a bit over the years, and we do things together, and I will talk about that in just a minute after I introduce him. I just want to let you know that obviously I travel here. David is doing the technical side of this. Everything comes out of my own pocket, and any support that you can give is very much appreciated. So small donations or large donations, it really helps to get me here. It doesn't usually get funded all the way. So if you do have it to spare, I would love to just get a nice fat donation to be able to just do a whole podcast. But $2, $5, $10, everything is completely welcome. So thank you also for the support that you have been giving, that you have been sending, not only the support in dollars, but also very much the support in messages that come to me all the time. As we know, this is a difficult subject. Not one that we survivors have chosen, but nevertheless important to speak about, to be able to freely speak about it. And so my guest today is Sven Kull, and he is a survivor who I met in 2018 online. And very quickly, we worked together. I had just started an online peer support group for survivors of extreme abuse, which is ongoing today. You can go to my resources page on my website to find it if you are a survivor of extreme abuse. That is to say, extreme meaning organized abuse, ritual abuse, mind control. These elements, they don't all have to be part of it, but it is, these kinds of abuse where extreme things happen to us as children. So Sven is the admin for the group. So many of you survivors probably already have been in contact with him, that especially if you're already on the group. And so yes, Sven, thank you so much. I want to just let everyone know that this is the first time that you're speaking out.
Yes, it is the first time I'm speaking out. I give an interview about my history, about my past. It's difficult to speak about, but it has to be. We have to speak out. So we speaking out. It's similar like to step in the light out of the shadow. And I hope that other survivors may follow to tell their own history. So we might get people to understand that this happened.
That this happened, exactly. Yeah. And your story is quite unique in terms of being in the West. We're in West Germany. Well, we're in former West Germany. And I'm from the West, and we have had many survivors from the West of this particular thing, but in your context, it was all about being in the socialist country state of East Germany. And so I thought it would be interesting to start, if you wouldn't mind, giving us an idea of what life was like, regular life in the 1960s when you were growing up, what life was like in general in the East.
When you were born in East Germany, your life was scheduled by government. From very early age, you go to the kindergarten. It was made that each child got a place, so the parents could go to work. Living was cheap. You got the family got a housing, a flat. If they couldn't choose, they got one, and the government said that's your housing. you haven't paid much for it, and for food, that was cheap. Expensive has been clothing or something like a TV, or that was very expensive. From own car, we don't talk. An engineer had an income of approximately 560 to 800 German marks a month, and for the cheapest car, you had to pay in between 10 and 13,000 German marks.
Gotcha.
And you have to wait 10 years.
You have to wait. And also, I read your manuscript, and we had also already spoken, and you had shared things with me that I'll always remember. And we will talk more about it. And I didn't know that also holidays were assigned by the government.
Yes, of course. We had, as in the school, we had 8 weeks summer school holidays. But my parents, 3 weeks of holidays only in the whole year. So there's there's a big difference. And each child had a right of 2 to 3 weeks organized holidays during the summer school.
The holidays.
School holidays. And my parents have paid part of the
they didn't.
Of the trip. And that was organized by the company my father works. And there we were sent to a place somewhere in East Germany.
Right.
And the day was scheduled.
Yes, even those holiday camps were quite militaristic.
Yes.
Yes.
We went up in the morning, sports in the mornings, and breakfast. We have had excursions to museums or to places where the Nazis have done bad things, and after that visit, we had to write down expert.
And what you're saying is that obviously the Nazis were the bad guys, but in the socialist country, there's a lot of the education that you received that was complete propaganda.
Yes.
Yeah.
It started from the first class. There was a youth organization called Ernst Thälmann Pioneers.
Yes.
That you became a pioneer in the first class. You don't have to be member of that youth organization, but if you haven't been in that youth organization, you were punished by government by that you got no benefits.
Gotcha. So basically, it's a youth organization like the Hitlerjugend, really,
yes.
but for socialists.
Yes.
And it was so supposedly all voluntary if you wanted, but if you didn't, you actually got, lack of benefits. It's suddenly benefits disappeared.
Yeah.
Yes. And that organization is super important to your story. So I just want to, leading in, there was a situation early on in your life from 3 to 5. You had, lovely years because your grandfather was very loving.
Yes. When I was born, my father had a job.
Yes.
And my mother has been a teacher.
Yes.
A primary school teacher.
Yes.
And in East Germany, they had to teach until the children went home. And then they had to do the work.
The homeworks and everything and all the other
homework,
stuff,
but not at home. They had to do it in school.
They had to do it all in school.
All
so
in school.
Basically, your mother was gone late, and then you stayed with your grandparents.
Yeah. My grandma worked in a company nearby the kindergarten.
Gotcha.
In the in the early shift.
Yes. Okay.
In between 6 a.m. and 2 p.m.
Okay.
And after that, she took me to their home. They lived in the remains of an old manor.
Yes, that was a great description of this manor, where there was only an outhouse.
An outhouse toilet.
Where you had to, even in winter, you had to go outside this outhouse toilet. Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. But nevertheless, you have these wonderful memories of your grandfather and the loving relationship that you had with him. Whereas you described your parents as your mother was always busy, also with your little sister later. Yeah. And then your father, because, I'm just jumping ahead a little bit, because then when you went to school, basically at 5 years old, was it that your grandfather died then?
No.
Or that you moved? You moved away.
We moved
to Brandenburg.
To Brandenburg.
Yes.
He got a housing, a flat.
Yes.
And then we moved.
Okay. So now you lived in Brandenburg, and I just want to jump ahead a little bit, because in Brandenburg you got bullied in school.
Yes, in the kindergarten and in school.
Yes.
I had no real friends. I figured out that I got attention when for good results
in school
by the teachers, and that was the only I focused on that.
Focused on that.
I learned to get best results, and for that I became a nerd. But a nerd in the GDR was not a good one. Was not a good thing.
When we were young, nerds were not cool.
No, but I got bullied by the classmates for that as well.
And then there was someone called Andreas who lived behind you. Basically, he was the caretaker of a children's home, which was located behind your home. And he was the one person who would listen to you, correct?
Yes. I could, if I was sad, if I need someone to talk, I could go to him, and he listened to me. I got often a chocolate milk. Chocolate milk. Just say, hey, sit down, and. But he tried to be my friend, and I thought he would be my friend, but he was not. In the time between my start at school and my start in school in 1970 and then in 1973, he told me that friends do something for benefit of each other, and he started to abuse me.
A very vulnerable child.
Yes. And I think I have only fragments of memories in the time between my 5th birthday and my 9th birthday. Mainly, I have memories when I visited my grandparents.
So, but from 5 to 9, you have sparse memories, but at 9 years old, so you were selected for the pioneer camp, and, people can look up those camps. So the Thälmann.
No, there have been, on the one side, there have been the holidays camps from the companies.
Okay.
On the other side, there has been some pioneer camps. Pioneer camps. It has been an honor to be chosen to a pioneer camp. Okay. You could not apply for that camp. You got an invitation.
We were saying that so there was the holiday camps that were from also the state, and then there were the pioneer camps, which at 9 you were selected for the pioneer camps.
There has been a pioneer camp where the children were invited to stay 18 days.
And this was a great honor. You had to be really good students.
That was a great honor. Much bigger honor has been to be selected for the Pioneer Republic. The Pioneer Republic, you spent 6 weeks, paid by government, at the Werbelinsee. And then there you got a lot of
ideological propaganda.
education.
Yes, okay.
So that was only one student of. There are no more than one student of a school in the Pioneer Republic. And now my parents got an invitation for me for a special pioneer camp for all 8 weeks of summer school. That was amazing. I thought that they demanded that the students had to be members of the Pioneer Youth Organization, and a very good result in school. We had notes. 1 has been very good, and 5 was the worst. And we had overall notes. We had to be 1.4 or better.
I'm not quite understanding when you're saying you had one was notes, meaning grades.
Grades. You had A grades.
Okay.
Overall.
Okay.
No less than A grade.
Okay.
That were the conditions. So it had 8 weeks paid by government.
Oh, so you had super good.
That sounded like a very good, a very big honor.
So you were very much looking forward to it.
Yes, I asked my parents, may I go? And they said, yes, you can go. They sent it back, the letter back, and then we got information what I have to bring with me, and where we have to be at one time. We had the last day of the school year. I got my school records, and I thought that will be my ticket to a much better life. I went home. We had some coffee and cakes, or milk and cakes, and then we headed to the main station in Brandenburg, where the coach
the bus came to get you.
The bus came, and each one, there were 3 other children with their parents waiting for the same bus. Brandenburg had at that time more than 100,000 inhabitants. They 3 then the bus came, we put the luggage in and entered the bus, and those 3 gave them a number and were placed. Sit down on this place, sit down on that.
So this is the bus. This is not a general bus. It's the bus that takes you to the camp. That is a government bus, basically, a camp bus.
It's not a camp bus. It's a bus of military forces. In the green of the military forces.
All right, khaki. Khaki
color. No, not khaki. Green.
Green.
Yes.
Military.
Military green.
Gotcha.
And when I entered, I got the newcomer number 3.
You got newcomer number 3.
I got my place. Then the windows were closed. You have not seen the stores were
because it was all blocked off.
All blocked off, and
so you could not see where you were going.
No, and we on the right they started with tests, mathematics, just knowledge tests, and no one. It seems that it has been common because every did it.
You thought it was a reward, the camp.
Yes.
And there is already on the bus. You're being
It started on the bus with the test.
Also, you describe everything. The bus is military. You're being tested, and then everything is completely like the military, or even, you were handed a number, correct?
Yes. When we arrived at the camp, there has been a registration. First, all those who had a number went into the registration. Then those who were new was to register. I handed over my
That's okay. Take your time.
My invitation.
Yes, you're
right. I handed. They took it, and I got a metal plate on a chain with a number, and my number has been 73184119. 73, the year of the first time I participated. And I asked first time, and they said, yeah, sure. Most of them will come back every year.
Okay, that was the first time.
Yeah, and then
73.
18, the first two numbers of the postal code.
Okay, where you live.
Yes, and 4119 was an ongoing number.
And so 4119, you were now called.
Yes.
4119.
4119 was my new name. They told me they used that number because if several students have the same first name, then it could be difficult to...
They gave you a good reason and you're like, sure.
Yes.
Okay.
And it was okay.
It seems okay. I could see that as a child you were saying, why not?
Why not?
Except now you're a number.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we became a dress, we became uniforms.
Right. You couldn't even bring your, right.
Yes.
No shoes, not your own shoes. They give you your shoes, everything, uniforms.
Yeah. So we became just like boys. Each one looks like the same.
Yes. And you actually were in a barrack.
We were in a barrack. We had a two-room barrack, 10 beds in one room.
Mm-hmm.
There were 2 barracks for boys and 4 for girls. And that was, each summer camp has been the same. 2 foot. So if all has been, so 40 boys and 80 girls.
And so you're a 9-year-old boy. This is your first time at this camp.
I got my bed in the middle of the room. Okay. And several of the boys in that room came and helped me to show me how to build the bed. That because if one of the room failed, the whole room was punished. And they helped me to fill in my to put in my things and they put it in the locker. How each had its special place in that locker, and they helped me to put it in the locker. Okay. That it was perfect.
Had to be perfect.
Yeah.
So, if I understand you correctly, so you arrived there, you're a number now, and you still think, it's weird that you were tested already. It's weird that it's so strict.
It was. I thought, hey, they forced me to do. We went up early morning, had exercise and breakfast, then indoctrination by the leaders, and then we had our school lessons. Then we had lunch, school lessons, dinner. Then we had 1 hour in the evening for us, and then at 9 p.m. we had to go to bed. Every day.
Except just very soon, like 3 days in or something.
On the first Monday of the camp, we had medical examination. I had to do the medical examination with an older girl, who have to do it with me. First, I have to watch what has done to the girl.
So, and we're talking, she's naked.
We were
both naked, and somehow you have to do a medical examination with an older girl. You have to watch as she's being penetrated, basically, right? To measure her. Yeah.
And the last thing...
So it's very strange, these measurements that are taken.
Yes. And last thing they had done was the measure of the difference between the tempers. And then it was...
So there's this very strange situation, because now this strict camp that you're thinking is educational, now there's suddenly this complete transgression on a sexual level, where your genitals are being measured by a girl that's a little older and naked there. And then it ends with you getting...
That was measured by the girl
supposedly first. To measure your head.
And then the role was on me. It was on me. A lot of things was taken, and then they measured the distance by me. That was the last member.
That's the last thing you remember.
Yeah.
Yep.
I woke up 1 month later in the camp hospital.
1 month.
1 month.
Oh my God.
And they told me I was knocked out during the examination, and in the time in between, I have knocked out several times. That was the official. 1 year later, I have seen what they did. That measure instrument has been used to inflict electrical shocks through the temples. So they knocked the kid knocked out and was put on
a stretcher.
On a stretcher and brought back, and then they returned approximately 1 month later.
And you have no idea what was done to you while you were in a coma?
Have fragmented memories I have only fragmented memories of that time, very disturbing. Fragments. I was I lay on the plate and was very tired, tried to sleep, but I couldn't get sleep because every few seconds water dropped on my forehead. I was floating in a tank in the water, in salt water. It has been warm water. It was dark. I was on some chains, but I floated it, and I have not seen any. It was quite nearly completely dark, and sometimes I started to see lights and see stars. I think it has been
hallucination. Yeah,
hallucination.
But you got very bright lights.
Yes.
Yeah.
I remember that I had headphones on. On the one ear, I heard some noises. I cannot, and on the other ear, some people speaking. There were always 2 or 3 people around me. One who has been a bad guy, and at least one tried to be my friend. And I have memories of torture. I do not want to tell here.
No, absolutely. But it's clear that this camp, which you looked forward to so much and thought that this is going to change your life, in fact, it did. But it immediately it was clear that this is not at all the prize. It's not at all, and so, we're talking. It's not maybe ritual in the sense of satanic religion, but it's ritual in the sense of torture and murder.
Rituals as well. All because we got told that the government pay 40 German marks each day for each of the students, and for that we had to do our very best in exchange for that honor.
And there was, you wrote that they told you that if you didn't do your very best enthusiastically, that you were betraying the working people of the GDR.
Yes, that's true. And that we get punished if we do not do our very best. In the Pioneer Organization, we were trained to accept all decisions of the government, that we do not ask any about what they told us, and to be they could exchange one by each other. Individuals were not. They don't like individuals.
Right. You were interchangeable.
Yeah.
And you also have to keep the secret.
Yes.
Yes.
We had to keep the secret, and they didn't only told us that we had to keep the secret. They have shown us what will happen to us, or what could happen to us if we break that silence.
Would you mind speaking about maybe the first time that you were shown?
The first time I was shown, I was not only shown, I had to participate.
Really sorry.
Thank you. It has been zusammenkommen.
A gathering.
A gathering. It has been a gathering. Each has to participate. All rooms stood in the park together. All the military
ranks
arranged. There has been a stage with 3 seats, 3 stools.
Yeah.
One there came one person in a pink robe and a pink cloak.
Oh.
And 2 red cloaks who take seat in front. There were several in black coats and a lot of brown coats.
So these are cloaks.
Yeah.
Cloaks.
Yeah.
So they were completely covered.
Cool.
Okay. Just like the satanic, this is just like what I saw too. People just completely covered in black cloaks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
robes. Yeah, robes.
They told us that they have catched a subject who has been member of that camps and who went, who tried to tell bad stories about the camp. But the comrades could catch him and brought him back with punishment. The boy tried to.
And you're saying this is a boy?
A boy is about 14, 15 years old. And he tried to talk with his teacher.
In school?
In school, and the teacher has been a secret member, a secret informant, information.
For the Stasi.
For the Stasi, for the security police.
Really?
They brought him. He was tied in a frame.
So when you're saying he was tied to a frame,
in a wooden frame.
A wooden frame.
In a wooden frame. And they asked who would participate in the punishment. And nearly each one raised the hand and said yes. And I didn't, and 4 others did. We 5 had to stay up in front of the stage, and they told us that in case of punishment, each has to participate. Each has to signal that he will participate to show
allegiance. Yeah.
Yes. To show that they are not common with that what he did.
Right.
And if someone would not want to to participate in punishment, he or she will join the one and punished at the same. So we had no choice. So they told us they would, because we have been first time, they would accept, they would forgive us if we do the punishment. We had no chance.
It's the same tactics as my experiences in network, except that it seems like it's a much larger gathering.
Yes.
And it's more public in that sense. It's all secret, but it's larger and it's institutionalized more.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yes. So it's the same tactics, though, the same games. And so, yes, I understand. You find yourself suddenly having to do horrible things.
Yes.
And did I write this correctly? Had you been given drugs before? No, not drugs. This time.
No drugs. Each we had to strip nude, the city nude, and each one got one of the black ropes beside us to show us what we have to do. They handed me a knife, a very sharp knife, and when it started, the black robe man took my hand, put the knife, put the blade here in the back on the
neck,
and push it down completely.
Because this boy is like tied up in a wheel, correct?
In a frame, in a wooden frame, like but in a state like on St. Andrew's cross,
okay.
in the shape of a St. Andrew's cross. Then he started to lose the skin on the back, and after a while he gave me the knife and said, "You go on. If you fail, each one of the others will take your place, and just the second frame." We had to skin him alive.
It's beyond awful.
One girl failed.
One girl failed.
She was punished in a other way, but she hadn't survived the slap. And after that, the bodies were roasted on fire. We had to eat them.
Oh my God. You just described everything, all the practices of the network, what they do in the West, what is done, the craziest things that nobody ever wants to imagine that are being done.
Yes.
And thank you for speaking. I thank you so much for having the courage to speak and for feeling for the victims and for yourself.
Yeah.
I say that their lives matter, that it's important that we speak, that they can be honored, because they were alive and they were killed and their lives mattered.
We all have been thrown away, channels. No one was safe.
No, that's clear. Wow.
And then I got my dress back, and it went on as such things are coming.
Yeah, once you get your clothes back,
Yes.
and everybody pretended nothing had happened. And this time you were not, sometimes you were drugged.
Sometimes we were diagnosed.
Okay, not that time. Oh, not the first time really, because this was your first indoctrination into this.
It has been my silence
Yes,
to make sure that
you never speak.
Never.
Never try to tell anyone.
And at the end, near the end of the camp on a weekend, we did an excursion. We had to.
Was this your again a reward? Supposedly.
Yes.
Was this the excursion? Okay.
It was the excursion to Namur.
Namur in Belgium. Yes.
We were an excursion, and the senior boy on the room said, "Hey, it's an honor to be on an excursion."
Okay.
He had to do had to tell us. We came together, few boys, many girls.
Okay.
Had to enter a truck, and the truck we didn't know where. And when we stopped, we have been on an airfield. There was a freight plane. We had to enter the freight plane and were transported to a place somewhere. At this moment, we didn't know. Then we were told when the doors are opened, there are some transporters and you have some trucks. You have to go in immediately. But that truck, I later figured out that it has been a Citroën.
Okay. Okay, yes. Okay, that kind of Citroën. I remember those.
Yeah,
yes.
Yeah.
The little vans, really.
The little vans.
Yeah.
Without a wall in between the
the driver and the back. Yeah.
And I picked up Namur. Just as well.
Right through the window.
We went to a castle, to a building, a castle, made of bricks, and in a building beside we had to strip mute, and then we got a collar.
Collar.
Yeah, we got a collar, and we got a small chains, put from one collar to the second.
So you were tied together.
Yeah.
By the collar, by chains.
Yeah.
So you were all nude, and you were just like slaves.
And then
you were slaves. Yeah.
And then we brought them to the party.
The party, because there was a party going.
There was a party.
Because you're in. I'm sorry, but it's what a coincidence that it would be in Belgium.
Yes.
And Namur, which as we know, is the area where Dutroux was operative, where Marc Dutroux was operative, and it's.
I didn't know.
Yes. Anyway.
And there we had to entertain.
You were basically sex slaves for the sex slaves.
We have been sex slaves. We had did very weird things.
Extreme.
Living toilet.
Sorry.
And next morning we were brought back to camp.
Back in the plane, back in the cargo plane.
Back in the truck, back in the plane, back in the truck, back in the camp. At the end of the camp, those who did well got rewarded. My parents got a place for tent camps.
Okay.
On the Baltic Sea.
Oh.
It has been impossible to get.
So they thought they were lucky?
They were lucky. 5 years in a row.
They thought they were really lucky 5 years in a row, and they didn't realize that it was because of you being abused so much. I know that there were some other things that you were used for, and it was also through the camp, if I'm not mistaken, that you were not going to this camp just once a year, but it was several times a year, correct?
Correct. We had 8 weeks in summer, 1 week in autumn, 3 weeks in winter, and 1 week in spring, and some weekends in between. And we had to participate each time. We had no chance to leave. We had no chance to go everywhere. Once captured, there was only one way out as a dead person.
Yes.
That's the only way.
I understand. And that was made clear right from the start.
Yeah.
And there are certain things that you have described that were very particular, that had to do with the politics of the time, also international politics.
Yes. We have had a carnival. And I was in 1974, and I had to be dressed like a little girl and had to behave like a little girl.
And you were how old?
Huh?
You were how old?
I was 10 years old.
Okay.
And I was trained in a hotel in a hotel room where some hidden cameras have been placed and hidden microphones.
So you were dressed as a girl for a carnival, but
Yes.
then you were actually had to put those clothes on again and had to act like that again.
Yes.
And then you were taken to an empty hotel room where they showed you where the hidden cameras were.
We were not to show, yes, in an empty hotel room. And then at the Fair Trade Munich, we had a spring and an autumn.
So in Munich, the trade
Leipzig.
fair, the Leipzig Trade Fair.
The trade fair in Leipzig in spring and in autumn, 1 week each. And I was brought there. I had to dress up in the evening like a little girl, and was brought to by a woman who told she would be my mother, but instead it has been an officer of the state security
Of Stasi.
Stasi. To one of the hotels in Leipzig, where only people can stay who could pay in convertible currency.
Basically foreigners.
Only foreigners.
Only foreigners.
Only foreigners. And there I was sold to customers for one night. they were checked, they were chosen before, or just they handed me over to the customer. She took the money for the night and left. And I had to, they have abused me.
And these people who bought you, they knew you were a boy.
No, they thought
they got a girl.
That I was a girl.
Wow.
Because I was completely dressed like a girl. I was painted like a girl.
Wow.
And for that they have I got a rough use because they were betrayed.
Oh.
And but I had to make sure that it has happened on the places where the hidden cameras have been, where the hidden microphones have been.
Oh, it was a trap. That was the trap.
That was a trap.
That they would become really abusive.
That they could blackmail the customers.
But more, why not just send a girl, which they would rape also? Because they're already buying a child.
They have used the girls as well.
Yes.
But mostly older girls. Because they could become pregnant, and then they could they could get more.
They would say this girl is pregnant now, and now you have to pay for it.
Yeah, you have to pay for it. Not you have to pay for it by money or by information or documents.
Or by information. So these people were often becoming, these foreigners became spies for the Stasi.
Yes, because
through the blackmail.
Next morning, when the customer sat on the breakfast, two men came to him in black leather coats. Yeah, and then they presented him pictures of the last night. Yeah, and then.
So do you think that them being caught with a boy would have been even more embarrassing for them or something?
Yes. And that has happened.
Because, listen, they did sexually abuse you anyway, right?
Yes.
Right. So they didn't care in the end.
No. That was, that hotels was run by foreign trade ministry.
Okay, the Ministry of Foreign Trade, or whatever it is.
And a special department called COCO, commercial, something commercial, and that department was set up and led by a major of the Stasi.
What was his name?
Alexander Schalk-Golodkowski.
Schalk-Golodkowski, yes.
And the Stasi...
He was very high up.
And the Stasi has paid the pioneer camps.
Of course.
Yes.
So you were in a Stasi camp?
Yeah.
To become an agent?
I have been a slave of the Stasi, of the COCO, to make money.
How they made money?
Make money for the GDR. The COCO was has produced several million marks, West marks each year by an illegal operation.
Of course.
The sex part has been one, military had the second, and so.
Drugs,
prostitution. Each action, has been filmed. For documentation.
Yes.
Purpose, we got told. But each has been filmed. Including including that punishment.
Which then can be, frankly, sold as a snuff film or something, you know. So this was Germany under Erich Honecker.
Yes.
Yes, and so...
But Erich Honecker has been handheld.
He was a puppet.
Yeah. The first man of the GDR has been Erich Mielke.
Okay.
He has been the boss of the Stasi.
Gotcha.
He told what has to be done and so.
So with this socialist state, you had really a dictatorship. Yes. And there's a lot known about it, except what is always left out is the children. It's always left out is the child slavery is always left out of it.
Yes.
I mean, everybody knows about the prostitution, except nobody knows about...
The prostitution in GDR was forbidden, except for purpose Stasi.
Yes.
Yes?
Yes, well, there's a lot known now, but not the child sex slavery, and I mean, not just sex slavery, but all forms. And was the idea, do you think, did children that were slaves in the pioneer camps, was the idea that they would maybe become agents for Stasi also?
Well, no.
Oh.
No. Not.
Oh, wow. Okay.
They got used, and not so many became old enough to those who became old enough got married. They chosen the boy and the girl and married them. So they became families for those who were taken from the society to keep them for some use.
And you have actually told me, you've actually the numbers are pretty clear in terms of your calculations.
Yes.
So it was.
My number has been 4,190.
Right.
And that 12 years after the pioneer camps were started. Then you can calculate it's approximately 350 children each year. And we had 15 departments in East Germany, so you can count 23, 24 children of each department each year. So it was meant that at least 50% of the boys
who started, it was the idea.
Reached her 15th birthday.
That was the point. That was the idea behind it, even that half would not survive.
Yeah.
And okay, you did touch very briefly on the girls that were a little older were made pregnant.
Yes. They demanded.
Yeah, they had to be pregnant.
They had to get pregnant. They had to get pregnant.
Yes.
By use of foreign customers.
Yes.
So they could blackmail the customers. When I was for a boy, they were blackmailed for that one thing that happened. If a girl got pregnant, they could blackmail them a couple of years because that child had to be raised, and
they could tell various clients that they were the father.
Yeah.
So they could blackmail 10 men at once.
Yeah, they used the same girl during the trade fair, 9 days, 9 customers, 1 girl. And so they had nine sources they could use to get information and
9 fathers.
yeah.
So okay.
The girl I started with my first examination, and she told her name has been Britta. Britta has been
not her real name.
Not her real name. And in summer 1975.
So now you're, let's see.
I have been 11.
11.
There has been a gathering, a party, not a gathering, a party style with many brown ropes. Yeah. The brown ropes didn't anything. I think they paid only for participate.
They paid to participate, to be in these horrific
yes
rituals, really.
Yeah. There has been an installation of 2 wheels and 2 and 3 beams in between this.
You're outside.
Yes, the party has been outside.
Yeah.
We had no room to do this inside. Parties have always been outside on the gathering place.
Okay. But party, it's not like masked ball. It's daytime.
That parties mostly have been in the evening and
night. Okay.
Not at daytime.
Okay. Yes, I'm trying to picture it, because when you described the punishment,
yes.
So that was in the morning.
It was over the day.
Over the day.
Yeah.
And it was also a gathering, and people were watching a spectacle on the stage.
Yes.
And so this is a party, and these brown robes come, and then what do they do? What happens? What were they doing? When you call it a party? What are people doing?
We all got some nice drink.
Okay.
Orange juice.
Okay.
You couldn't get orange juice in East Germany, but there you got orange juice or chocolate drink, real sweet chocolate drink. But there were drugs in it. So each one was happy. There has been a wheel, we called it wheel of torture. It has been 2 wheels like bicycle wheels, but it has been metal plates. And in between these metal...
But very large.
Very large.
Okay, so we got 2 wheels, very large wheels.
2.5 meters in diameter, approximately.
Okay.
And in between these...
2.5 meters, whereas I would be 170, right?
Yes.
So it's that much bigger than me.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
And in between they could place beams.
Okay.
Metal beams.
To connect
both wheels. The wheels could be made to rotate by a hand. So
they were placed on something, so they could rotate from up to down. So it's like this. It's a vertical
rotation. They could, and that could be done by hand, by a handheld
crank.
By a crank, and it could be done by an electric motor.
Okay.
Without that, the beams, usually it has been an electric motor for spinning up and down.
For spinning you.
Yeah.
Upside down, which spinning is, I know that a lot of people have experienced it that have survived SRA, but usually it goes horizontally. So you were spun vertically.
Vertically.
Okay. Yes. With the machine, then it goes really, really fast.
Yeah.
But this time, okay.
This time there have been beams. And that girl Britta was punished because she hadn't been pregnant till now.
She didn't get pregnant.
She didn't get pregnant. She was 15 years old. She didn't get pregnant. She was put on 2 beams.
So again, it's like something like completely outside of her own control.
Yes, completely out of her own control. She was tied. And then a boy was at the same age, was called. He was slightly nervous. His head got shaven, bald. As punishment, I didn't know for what reason. And he was put with his face on upside down on the beams. So
these are the beams in between the wheels, and these children are basically tied to those beams in between the wheels.
In between the wheels,
and she's stretched between.
Yeah, and he and the boy had to
orally satisfy her.
Yeah, orally satisfy the girl. And then they called 4119. I had to step forward.
That's your number.
That has been my number. I had to I had to grab the crank. I had to pull the wheel.
Now, if anybody you were close to at all in the camp, it was Britta.
Yeah.
And she was 15 and you were 11.
Yes.
So that was on purpose that you were called.
Then they ordered me to stop, put something on the something metal on the wheel. I couldn't see at this time because they did it there. There was the wheel, and I stood on the other side. And then I had to go on. And that's the last I remember. I have big
gaps.
A gap in memories. Next morning, I went up early in the morning. I didn't know if I had slept during the night. I was on the way to the toilets, where behind the gathering place, and the wheel stood there. It was still there, and they had put a coal.
The thing that they placed on the wheels.
They did 2 things. They placed like a skirt on the wheel, a skirt around Britta's waist. And they had a coal fire under the wheel, in between Britta's waist and the end of the boy.
From her waist down?
Down.
And for the boy completely?
The boy completely.
They were burned?
They were roasted, but roasted alive. And when the boy was dead, I felt Britta was not completely dead.
Because she was, from here down, she wasn't burned?
No.
Oh my goodness.
I acted without thinking. I took the knife and cut the carrots on both sides, because we were trained in anatomy to torture without, not lethally.
Not lethally, right? But
yeah.
This time you knew that you also knew how to kill quickly.
I want to make sure that she went quickly to the other side and did not suffer anymore. And then I ran away. I ran away from the camp. I came to a motorway and tried to suicide, to throw me in front of the track. I missed the second time. First time has been when I was 9.
Oh.
I was brought to the police, and and from the police, the Stasi picked me up and brought me back to the camp. I came back to the camp, and first what I had to do was to write a letter to my parents to beg for pardon, and I had to write down something. I write down my testament.
Oh, your will, your last will.
Yeah, my last will. And then they started interrogation, torture. Was placed in a white room. White.
Everything white.
Everything white.
Mm-hmm.
Tiles on the floor, on the walls, no door, and very bright light from above. I don't know how long I've been there. I was put in the coffin. They brought me to.
So from
to a grave,
out of the white room,
they
brought you to a grave.
To a graveyard. Opened the grave of a child. Opened the coffin. Put me into the coffin, and
buried.
And so
again, I'm sorry to say, but again, this is not uncommon in the satanic families and these children and the people that I speak with. I personally did not experience this, but I have often heard survivors that have experienced exactly that. So somehow somebody's got the same handbook, you see. It's very strange or interesting at the very least that the tactics that are used by the Stasi are the same that are used by the people that are practicing this all over the world in secret. Yes. So you were buried with the body of a child in the grave.
With a rotten.
What?
With a rotten buried.
She was rotten. It was the body was rotting.
And I came back to the camp.
You don't know how you got out?
They brought me back. The senior boy of the room said he had not expected I return. I have been away for 3 weeks.
Basically non-stop torture.
Yes. And in this summer, at the end, near to the end, I was ordered for a new excursion. It started in the mornings. It was not common because most started in the evening. And it has been a lot of boys and only a few girls.
Unusual then also.
Very unusual. So the bus came, we took our seats. We were 20 children in the bus. 40, a full bus had been 40, but we had taken our seat in the middle, not on the window, in the middle. We have driven several hours, past the checkpoint. And then we got order to strip nude in the bus, put our dress beside us, and metal plate also. That was very unusual.
You never took off your metal dog tags.
Yeah. Then the bus stopped. We had to go out. There were other buses, a lot of children, a lot of adults around who cooked looked for us. Then we were mixed, and the trucks came, and we had to enter the trucks. 20 children and two trainers armed with a machine gun. And we were brought to several places, somewhere in the woods. We had to go out. And then one of the trainers told us, you have done a lot of games in the camps, like policemen try to catch
The thieves.
as the thieves. That was happen in the camps very often. We do here similar to it, but today we have a hunting game, and we don't have deers. You are the deers. You have no run. The hunters will start in 30 minutes.
30 minutes.
Yes. They were maybe 2 or 3 kilometers away, so
Right.
and they would start a little bit later. And one boy said he hates such game. If each time he got catched, and if he wouldn't, he don't want to run.
Okay.
He sat down on the ground and leaned to a tree. And then one of the trainers took his machine gun.
Machine gun.
Kalashnikov.
Kalashnikov.
In Western world,
AK-47.
yes, but we had in the camp we had a similar, but with small caliber.
Okay.
With small shells.
Okay.
It was made this was produced in GDR.
Okay.
So from outside, we couldn't see what kind of gun it has been. Yes, he took the gun and shot the boy in the head, and the skull splashed like if you have dropped a melon. And then,
so this was a very powerful machine gun.
Yes, it has been AK-47. And then he shouted, "Run!" And then we have. I came across. I came to a creek. I tried. I thought if I get over the creek, I'm safe. I jumped to short. I landed in a lot of mud. It took a lot of power to crawl out of that mud. But that has been my luck. The mud on my body, and when I crawled out, I took a lot of grasses and trees and
Everything got stuck to you.
Yeah, stuck on me. I ran and ran and ran. I heard something coming close. I fell into a hole. There was some dry wood around. I took it over me. I heard foot. I heard them walking near. They stood maybe 1 meter away. I heard them lighting some cigarettes. And then when they left, they didn't notice I'm such close.
You knew not to move.
Huh?
You knew not to move.
Yeah, not to move. Not to move. Nearly not to breathe. And then the sun goes down while it was sunset, and I didn't know what to do now. And then a call of speakers, loudspeakers through the wood. The hunt is over. Return back. It was a big party at the evening.
So basically, you're telling me about the hunt, and I have other survivors, that have also experienced that. I've myself experienced, witnessed ones, experienced ones. But then usually that's it. Like, that's the event. So you're saying now after this hunt, there was more.
There was more. After the hunt,
so now we can assume that several children have been killed.
Yes, several children got killed. We were 20 who started, and 12 who returned. And we had to do sex. We had to have sex. We were abused. We had to do sex with each other. We had to do sex with necrosex with those who got killed.
Oh no!
We have been used by the animals and by the perpetrators.
Oh my goodness! Absolute, complete debauchery.
Yes.
And these were also these people who were screaming and who were then taking part. Were they Stasi also, or were these other kinds of people?
I did not know who, but the hunters have been. It has been in an area, in a restricted area, called Schorfheide.
That was in Schorfheide?
Yes.
That was the private residence of Erich Honecker?
Not only. It has been a 200 square kilometers restricted area.
Oh, 200 square kilometers. So
yes, it's
very big.
Very big area of woods, of forests, some lakes. There has been the hunting area of Erich Honecker, of Erich Mielke, the weekend house of Alexander Schalk-Golodkowski, and a lot of more.
Gotcha. So it was, of course, government.
It has been government.
It was a government residence or a hunting lodge, you could say.
And they had they had no deals in that shoot that was used by Göring and Goebbels before.
Oh my goodness!
And then they changed it to they took over by the
socialists.
By the socialists, they did the same.
And they did the same things. Wow.
I had to participate in several such huntings.
Yes.
I was lucky that I survived.
Yes, every time, every time you were also, for whatever reason also, that instead of you being put on a stage and tortured to death after you ran away, you were tortured extensively, but then returned.
Yes.
So
returned and then brought to the hunting game and back and to the next hunting game and to an excursion to be used. When I became older, I was not. I couldn't be used as a little girl,
right.
Girl,
right.
on the fair trades and my
trade fairs, yeah.
Trade fairs, yeah. And my job changed from being abused to blackmail as a present for a special.
Special, what is that?
If they did special contracts.
Oh.
I remember one day I was handed over to a group with the words, here's your toy for tonight. if you damage it, you have to pay for it.
So basically they said, if you pay, you can damage it. You just have to pay.
Yeah.
So there's just a price.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming that you were damaged.
Yes. It ended with a broken bones and damaged, and they put my dick and my balls into a bag with chalk.
Oh, with lime.
With lime.
Right.
I was knocked out by pain. Then
So that was their toy.
Yeah.
That was their game.
Yes.
My goodness. So I want to begin to direct us to, because you did, obviously you're sitting here and you're able to speak about it, and thank you that you are. I do hope that other survivors will come forward. You're even now speaking to other survivors of the GDR, the same experiences that you had. Can you, because it is amazing that you're alive, would you mind telling us briefly how you got out?
Well, in 1980,
So now you're 18?
I have been 16.
16. Okay.
16 years old.
Yeah.
My father's father, lived in Unterlüß, near, in between Hanover and Hamburg.
In West Germany.
West Germany. And he was he got a note from the doctor of my father, my other grandpa, that he was very ill, and my father got permission to travel to him, to visit him last time for 10 days.
Okay.
Because he has a wife and he had 2 children, and they were sure he would come.
Right.
Well, my father talked with me and my mother, and he liked to use that chance to look if we can live in the West.
He wanted you all to escape.
Yeah. Then we want to escape, but without the punishment of the government.
Sure.
Because only preparation to leave the GDR was punished by 15 years in prison.
And there's spies everywhere because everyone was a spy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we got the telex. After a couple of days, he became ill and he couldn't travel. The telegram was the sign he looks for work.
Gotcha.
Then several weeks later, we got a second telex that he will not return. Well, the telex, we got the telex, not the Stasi. We got, and that was the first mistake the postal office did.
Report. Yes.
Then we went to the Stasi. We had to and said here he will not return. They offered my mother to be divorced instantly because they counted his
absence
as a flight, as an escape, not a flight. Flucht.
Yeah. It is flight also. Yeah.
As an escape.
Yeah.
But my mother did not accept it.
Mm.
We went to Berlin to a lawyer, Vogel, who did all the
Paperwork?
huh?
Paperwork?
Not only the paperwork. He was the only one who did all that people could immigrate from the GDR into West Germany in exchange for payment of West Germany. West German paid for each one approximately 10,000 German marks.
Okay.
By this, when my mother did the application for herself, my sister and me, I became a boss. I became a boss for the government.
Right. You mean a risk?
No. They wanted a boy.
You became valuable.
I became very valuable. A boy of 16 years couldn't be paid for such anymore.
Oh, you became a burden.
Huh? Yes.
Because you would have been a burden. You would have cost them too much as a 16-year-old boy.
No, as a 16, they got paid by wealthy persons to abuse us.
Right.
Yes.
But at 16, you were aged out.
Yes, I was aged out.
So you were now a burden that you would cost them.
Yeah. And for that, if they can get 10,000 of German marks.
Also, the government was paid. It was slave trade again. I mean, in a way, to free you could be free, but they would get paid, and so they take the money so they don't have to pay for you.
Yes, and for that I was saved.
Wow! Through this lawyer who was paid by Vogel in Berlin, who was being paid by West Germany to basically buy people out.
Yes.
And then the only reason they agreed is because you aged out.
Yes.
Okay, wow.
And then we had to wait. The Stasi told us we will never immigrate.
Okay.
But after 3.5 years, we got
permission.
We got the permission to leave GDR into the West, up to the West.
Yay!
That saved my life. And then I tried to forget.
Sure.
I tried to forget all about GDR was history.
Yeah.
In 1987,
yeah,
I started with my study. When I left East Germany, I went to school to get
your diploma.
To get the school record that I could start a study.
Mm-hmm.
And then in 1987, I started with my study. And each student get an immatriculation number. And my immatriculation number has been 887-4119.
Wow.
And with that, slowly memories came back.
You know, I started getting memories in 1987 also.
Not in 1987 directly, but...
Okay. But you got that number, which was like, boing,
yes,
that hit you. Yeah. Whereas in 1987, there was a smell that just suddenly triggered a flashback, which I just pushed away again. But it started then.
It started slowly with flashbacks and so.
Yeah.
That couldn't be real, and
for sure not. Yeah. Right.
And it went on and on and on, and in 1998, I heard a voice in my head that told me, make suicide. kill yourself. You couldn't. I say try to reach back to the network, and if that happened, kill yourself. And I went into a psychiatric clinic. I spent there 8 weeks. And then I had a therapy for 4 years. Finished in 2003.
Okay.
And then some things came out, including that with Britta, that was omnipresent. And I started to write all my memories down. I couldn't speak out, but I could write. And each time I had a flashback, I wrote it down. So in the first time, it has been like my memories have been a mirror, a frame with some pieces of a mirror, and a lot of pieces of the mirror on the ground.
Sure.
And I started to I tried to put those together. And then came 2018 with that message on TV that the Belgian government thought about Marc Dutroux.
So just to be clear, Marc Dutroux is the Belgian network pimp, let's just be clear, who became the case for whom, in 1996 was supposed to blow up the network, except that after 8 years of a trial being prepared and many witnesses dying in strange circumstances, everything that was network related initially was reduced to him, Marc Dutroux, except that in 2018, go ahead. So there was a case that, by the way, the network that I first started in was the network that was talked about when Marc Dutroux was caught, when 4 bodies of girls were found. Okay, so Marc Dutroux was in the news in 2018.
In 2018, and then a lot of memories came back. It was
because he was in the news. Because why? Because his lawyer was pleading to get him out of jail. He should be released from jail, they said.
Yes, and that caused a lot of flashbacks. A lot of memories came back. It has been very difficult for my wife. Very difficult during the night. I screamed. I kicked. She had a blue eye from my. And the next morning, I couldn't remember any. And we were both short before divorce. And in 2019, on a ride in a car, I stopped the car and told her about my history, my very first time.
Yes, and I want to bring up one more thing that's really important. Actually, 2, excuse me. Because the role of Andreas, you found out much later that it was this Andreas, the pedophile, that was supposedly your friend when you were bullied in school, that he really was the reason, that he was the one who basically got you into.
He was the one who brought me into. He was the one who gave them the information. There's a boy. He is alone.
He's a good candidate.
He's a good candidate. He has no close friends. His parents are do not take the care as it should be.
Right.
It might be easy to catch him.
Gotcha. So he was an informant for the Stasi.
Yes.
And the other really important thing I want to just, if you wouldn't mind, closing out, you testified for a committee that's a governmental committee from,
Yes.
the Federal Republic of Germany now, and that that is interested in gathering these testimonies.
Yes, it was set up in 2016.
Yes.
After they had a huge case of Catholic Church in the Bistum Münster.
Okay.
And then they started to investigate and collect reports of survivors. And it was set up by the government, and it's an independent commission. There are people who have studied such, but there are also survivors and they started to collect these reports, and the main politic says, we believe you. You don't have to prove any. That you sit here and talk with us, or that you write your history down and send it to us, is proof enough.
Right.
That has been the first time, but I did a big mistake. So I took to the testimony someone else. That was my wife. And I'm very, very sorry. Mm-hmm. That's the main reason my wife is here to listen to the interview. So I do not want any secrets for her. Last time in 2020,
you wanted to protect her from it.
I tried to protect her, but looking back now, it was a mistake.
Well, she can handle it.
Yeah.
Yeah. You didn't lose her.
No. I didn't lose her.
Oh. Yeah. Wow.
And a lot of my behavior, we figured out that I have dissociative identity.
Well, we'll just say that again for a second, because that was really loud. You're saying you figured out that you have dissociative identity disorder.
Yes.
Yes.
And that makes a lot of sense of things happened. When my wife said to me, we have talked about, I do not remember.
Sure.
That's caused a lot of problems, a lot of mistakes and misunderstoods.
Well, now you do have the cause. You both know the cause, and you're still working on yourself. And I do want to close this up, but I just want to ask you if there's anything that you would really like to share before we end. Is there anything you'd really still feel you need to share before we close?
Yeah. It is difficult to start to talk about memories. It is like you have a wound, have a cut, and and each time you talk, you pull it up, and it's opened again, but a little bit smaller.
The wounds, yeah.
It's a healing process to learn to speak it out.
In English, no less.
In German as well as in English.
Okay.
And it becomes easier if I do it more and more. And it is a good for survivors who do not
dare, maybe. Not dare yet. Yeah.
Who cannot speak it out now, write it down and share it with people who can read it. Then the perpetrators told us we do not have to talk about. They have not told us we do not have to write it down.
That's true.
And that helped me. It helped a lot to write it down so I could share and share it with other survivors. And for me, it was the survivors have been in the same network, and I hope that others could step out of the shadow in the light.
Yes.
With my interview, I follow a light tower.
Yes.
I follow a light tower in a dark, stormy night.
Yes.
Even a person who even if the person who she herself would be a small beam of light in a dark cave.
It's from my book.
The beam in the dark, the small beam in the dark night, in the dark cave is from your book, but it isn't a small beam.
Oh.
It is a light tower in the stormy night.
Oh, thank you. Wow. Thank you. Got me cried. Oh, man. Thank you for that beautiful, beautiful compliment. And that's my honor. I'm so glad to be here with you today. See you again.
And thank you that you give me the opportunity to give that interview.
That's my great pleasure. So, yes, thank you for your courage in speaking out. And yes, very, very grateful. And yes, let many people hear it and write it down.
Okay.
Thank you, Sven.
Thank you.